Hi, good morning everyone. Let's get started with our topic for this session, which is on ICM. Okay, ICM stands for Internet Communication Manager, and this process basically turns the classic SAP ABAP application server into SAP Web Application Server. Okay, so this basically provides the web layer to the previously ABAP application server. Okay, so in this particular topic we'll cover about the configuration parameters, how we can enable and disable ICM, how we can start ICM, how we can monitor the ICM, that is which processes are running, how much memory they are consuming. And from the architecture perspective, basically what happens is it is basically an interface to the external world. Okay, so here in this slide it is showing that how the external users using a web browser, they are connecting to ICM. Okay, ICM, you are seeing that this ICM in turns is connecting to the ABAP dispatcher or the Java dispatcher, and which connects through the processes to the processes basically. So here you can see for each instance you have an ICM system here. Say for example, here you can see you have your development system, which is having two ICM processes, one for instance 00, one for instance 02. Then here you have QAS SID, which have two instances, one is instance 10 and another is instance 12. Okay, so basically in the system landscape in which web browser from the internet and intranet are connected with an AS ABAP, important features are basically the support for standard web protocols such as HTTP, HTTPS, WebDAV, SOAP and SMTP, and display of standard web format such as HTML, XML, XSLT. All this is provisioned to ICM. Okay, this basically provides a complete integration into SAP environment, whether it is development environment, user administration, authorization concept. Okay, so the AS ABAP function can basically, the AS ABAP can function both as a web server, that is it can provide a server role as well as it can provide a client role as well. Server role, in which the AS ABAP can accept and process HTTP request from any web client such as a web browser and sends back an HTTP response. Okay, within a work process, the ICF process, it provides the environment for handling HTTP requests. So ICF stands for Internet Communication Framework. We'll be covering ICF in our next topic, but for now ICF is basically it's a Internet Communication Framework which provides the environment for handling HTTP requests. And ICF, it's actually a bridge between the C kernel of SAP system and the application program created in SAP. So work process, it can directly generate web compatible content in a way that can be forwarded to lower browser using the ICM. One way of creating the content is to use your BSP, that is business server pages. Okay, or you can create it using SEAT as well. Okay, so let's see the architecture. Okay, here you are seeing the internal structure of it. Okay, from a technical perspective, ICM actually it's a separate process. At OS level you can see it, the process name as ICMan. Okay, so that is started and monitored by the ABAP dispatcher. So what is the task of this particular ICMan that we just saw? It's basically used to ensure that SAP system can communicate with the outside world using HTTP, HTTPS, SMTP, depending on what are the services it is providing. Okay, so in the server role, it can process requests from the internet that arrive with URLs with the server port combination for which the ICM is listening. Okay, the ICM then calls the appropriate local handler depending on the URL. Okay, so here you can see in this particular slide the ICM process uses the threads to process the created workload in parallel. The components of the ICM, so here you can see the different components of ICM. You can see your thread control, you can see worker thread, the watchdog, the signal handler, connection info, and memory pipe. So what these components, what is the role played by these components? Okay, let's start with thread control. So thread control, it accepts the incoming TCP/IP request and creates a worker thread from the thread pool to process the request. Okay, so what is a worker thread? This thread handles requests and responses for a connection. Okay, so then watchdog basically it is just waits for a response. Okay, signal handler, this it's basically processes signals that are sent from the OS or another processes. Then we have the connection info over here. So connection info, this basically it's a table with information for each existing network connection. Okay, then lastly it's about the memory pipe. So these memory based communication objects allow data transfer between ICM and ABAP processes. So that is about the different components, and the request from the ICM, they also have to wait in the dialog queue of the ABAP dispatcher. If a free dialog process is found, ICM threads and dialog process can communicate directly with each other. Okay, so let's see it directly into the system. Okay, so in the system here you can see, let's log into the system. So we have seen the transaction for monitoring ICM or configuring ICM, it's SMICM. So using SMICM we can monitor different configuration, we can manage it, we can tune it, we can start it. So let's see which are the different processes running in this. If I click on services, it will show that okay, these are the services I have configured to run in SMICM, that is in the ICM. Okay, we can see it using this SMICM transaction. First service is HTTP, it is running at this port on this host, and the keep alive, this is the keep alive for this. Okay, so the other service is SMTP. Here you can see that there are other services like HTTPS and all, which are not using in this particular ICM. Okay, in this interface here you can see the status. First thing is status, it is showing it's running. Okay, then the other statistics like the different processes which is running, and let's go into the other configuration parameters. Like under the parameter tab, here you can display the different parameters for ICM. So here you can see that this is your HTTP, this is making sure that your SMTP is running on this, and these are the different other parameters like maximum connections, maximum sockets, and tracing and all that stuff. Okay, so then let's see the trace file. Okay, here you can see this is a trace file, and if you just click on display all, it will show you the trace of the ICM, what happens when, and if there are any errors, they are highlighted in the red color that you can see here. So that is about the trace filing. Okay, then we'll see that what are the things, other things can be seen here. You can see the HTTP server log. Okay, you can see things like increase or decrease of the trace level. Okay, then on the administration tab, here in this tab you can see the ICM. You can do a stop and start, that is, if you just go to administration, ICM, and under ICM you can see exit soft, that is locally or globally. Globally means that if you have multiple ICMs, so it will shut down all the ICMs at one shot. If I just refresh this, you will see the red tab over there. It comes momentarily because it's pretty quick. Okay, so it's back to it started again. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to show you guys is about the transaction code called SITS PMON. So basically I'm talking about this transaction code SITS PMON, SITS PMON. Okay, SITS PMON, it's basically it is showing the internal status. Okay, what are the different settings, then memory statistics, which process is using how much memory. Okay, then about the MIAM cache, that is in case if we want something is cached and we want to invalidate that, this is can be done from this interface. Okay, then these are the other templates which can be seen from here. Okay, so that's what actually I wanted to cover in this particular session, and we have already seen the parameters for stopping and starting as well. So in this screen here you can see that this is the parameter. The value should be 1 in case if we want to start ICM. Okay, so that is about the start process for starting the ICM. Okay, we have seen the different parameters what we can do in SMICM. Okay, that's all actually I wanted to cover in this section. Thanks for joining and have a nice day. Bye bye.